The BZ-72-1 for 22,500 minimum bid. Now, obviously, this is your own money, your gold. You do with it whatever you want. I would not bid gold for just a regular tier 10 reward vehicle, especially considering it's, I mean, depending on what type of player you are, you might think that this is better than the BZ-75, but you also might think that this is worse than the BZ-75. So in my opinion, straight out of the gate, it's not worth it. But let's now take a deep dive into what the tank is and how it compares. So the BZ-72-1, it is, for all intents and purposes, on the base level, a BZ-75 which gets some different field mods but goes a bit faster. And those different field mods are also a blessing and a curse in disguise. Because if you know the BZ-75, you know that this thing likes to get ammo-racked and set on fire a lot. And this tank is not really going to be any exception. Although, yes, the BZ-72 does get a little bit better ammo-rack health. As you can see, it goes up from 210, like on the BZ-75, to then 240. But that's not really that much. And the problem is that the fuel tanks are still exactly the same with 200. Which leads me on to why the field mods are a blessing and a curse. Because the BZ-72, yes, it can go faster than the BZ-75, but you don't get the same number 8 field mod. The number 8 field mod on the BZ-75 gives you plus 30 internal durability, meaning that the fuel tanks get buffed and the ammo rack gets buffed, which then makes this tank far better for ammo rack and fuel tank durability than the BZ-72. And the BZ-72 can't do anything to improve its survivability for internal modules unless you use experimental hardening or config. However, if you do use the full field mods on the BZ-72, you will get a plus 4 km/h top speed if you use the number 7 field mod. Whereas on the BZ-75, you will only get a plus 2 km/h top speed. Now, yes, this does scale when you use the boosters. For example, if we remove that, you'll see that it goes from 30 to 32. However, if we use the boosters and we then take that off, it goes from 45 to 48. Obviously, this is now giving it plus 3 rather than plus 2. And the exact same thing works with the BZ-72. When you use the boosters, you go out at 51 if you are using the field mod, or 45 if you are not. So instead of getting plus 4, you will get plus 6. Now, obviously, when you're not using the boosters, this is just going to give you a flat plus 4 km/h top speed, the exact same way that the BZ-75 gives you a plus 2 km/h top speed when you're not using the boosters. So it's exactly the same as every other tank, but once you do use the boosters, it then scales with any other bonus that you have, including a turbo. So you can obviously use the booster here, you go at 48, and then you can use, say, Bounty Turbo, and you go to 55. You know, that's definitely not the plus 5 km/h top speed going from 48 to suddenly 55. But if you are not using the boosters, then obviously it is the normal top speed increase. So that means that the BZ-75 can go at 55 km/h top speed. Obviously, that's with using a Bounty Turbo. If you use a Bond Turbo, it would be 1 km/h more. And the BZ-72, if we are using a Bounty Turbo, at that, it'll go to 58. So, yeah, it's faster. And yes, the power to weight is a lot better. As you can see, it goes at 47 in the boost mode, and then 19 power to weight normally. And then in the BZ-75, you have 35 power to weight. And then if we remove that, you have the normal 14 power to weight. So it is definitely a lot more like nippy. Like it's a lot faster, a bit more agile, especially going up hills and stuff like that. Will you notice it massively? I mean, if you're in a side-by-side comparison, maybe, but probably won't if you're just playing it normally. And the thing is with these types of tanks, they feel slow. They feel really, really slow if you're not using the boost. So keep that in mind, because it is painful sometimes when you run out of boosters and then you're like an S-Conk level speed, right? You're not quite at S-Conk level speed because you have power to weight, like very, very good power to weight. However, it is the same kind of top speed. So take for that how you will. Now, putting these side by side in the comparison, they have exactly the same loadout, which is a turbo, a rammer, and a stab. Obviously, this BZ-75 is going to benefit from the field mods. I've also obviously put all the field mods that I would recommend to use. Only use the left-hand field mod if you're not using a hardening, because I've made a full video on that and how it all works together. And for this one, the exactly same kind of layout. The problem is with the BZ-72 is I would want to have some form of protection for my fuel tanks, because that is going to get set on fire a lot. Especially once people learn where the fuel tanks are, you're just going to get set on fire. And not having that number 8 field mod where you can actually improve that fuel tanks and ammo rack is going to be quite annoying. But exactly the same layout. Let's see how they compare. Obviously, gun-wise, yes, the BZ has more DPM. However, that's not that much more DPM. And considering that you get a better alpha damage and a better caliber, so you can actually overmatch things with the BZ a lot more, I'd probably rather have the BZ gun. I'm not going to lie. Like, I would probably just rather have it. It's only a few seconds longer for that bigger alpha. I don't know. Like a 152mm caliber gun versus a 130. 152 can overmatch a lot of plates on tanks, especially super heavies and stuff like that. For example, a 60 TP. If you go and face like a 60 TP, you can actually go above this with AP and just overmatch him straight away. Fun fact. And a 130 caliber gun is not going to do that. So overmatching stuff is a very valid reason why you'd want to have a bigger caliber gun, honestly. Like, you can do a lot with 152. It also makes no sense that this shell velocity is faster with a bigger caliber gun. I don't know. Gun handling wise, yes, the BZ-72-1 has better gun handling. That's just how it is. Both of these obviously have stab on them. This is worse than the BZ-72. Including the dispersion, it is a more accurate gun, as you would probably expect, considering that this is a lower caliber gun than the BZ-75. And obviously for mobility, yes, we've already established that the BZ-72 is faster. However, both of them, once they run out of boosters, they're going to be quite slow. So, quite a sluggish kind of tank. The BZ-72 though, because of the extra power to weight, it won't feel as sluggish as the BZ-75. So, you do have that going for it, as well as the better terrain resistances. With the BZ-75, it's kind of needed that you have as much going for it in the terrain resistance part as you can. So like that first field mod, if you're not going to be using hardening, I'd 100% recommend you use the left-hand field mod, because that terrain resistance is awful without it. For the armor, we'll move on to that in a second, but for the actual health of the tank and the ammo rack durability and the fuel tank durability, as you can see, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, this might not be a very nice tank to play, this BZ-72. And also, with all these bigger caliber guns coming into the game, the chance that you're going to get set on fire grows more and more, right? If another BZ-72 probably shoots your rear, your engine will probably get knocked out if the engine's there. I don't know the actual layout of the tank. Your fuel tanks will probably get knocked out, so you're going to get set on fire, maybe ammo rack, everything else. Like, this is not a very healthy tank in regards to the actual module durability. Whereas the BZ-75, with that 8 field mod, again, what would you rather have? Would you rather have extra speed? Or would you rather be a little bit slower, but be a little bit more protected? And honestly, I'd probably rather be the BZ-75. And this is me just looking at them, not like, oh, this is 20,000 gold and this is 6 million credits. This is me looking at them completely, like, objectively, as if they each cost like 6 million credits, right? What would I rather play? I'd probably rather just play the BZ-75. I'd rather take the worse gun handling, but bigger alpha and bigger caliber, but still have more than enough armor and a lot more protected durability inside for my modules. Now, speaking about the armor, the BZ-72, although it does have a better turret than the BZ-75, because the BZ-75 has 1, 2, 3 cupolars for whatever reason. Apart from that, the BZ-75 is stupidly well armored. Like, it is so troll everywhere else on the tank. Even when you think that you can actually pen this thing, like if it's side scraping, like this, and you think, this is an easy pen. No, you need 280 millimeters to go through that. And that's just, you could get baited so hard, because if you go to the visual model, you think that this is like a pike nose design, and that you're just going to pen it very, very easily, but you're not. Like, that is very troll indeed. And then you can side scrape a little bit more, and then properly, you know, that is a nightmare to try and deal with, unless you fire 340 heat, in which case then it comes a bit better. Obviously, this is only 319, so yeah, you have like a 70% chance to go through. Make sure you obviously shoot the front bit, because this is the flattest bit in comparison to what you'll be looking at. But with 340 heat, you should be able to go through all of this, or 330 heat, it should be fine. But even with 319 heat, you look at this tank, that is not an easy shot, especially if it's hold down. I mean, it's an easy shot for the cupolas, but if you're going backwards and forwards, rocking it side by side, you know, trying to, pointing the gun up in the air, you know, wiggling it, you might get a lucky bounce, it might go low, might go high, who knows. With the BZ-72, if you fire its 320 heat, what about side scraping? Oh dear. But the AP? See, now this is a problem, because the BZ-75 doesn't have this issue. When you side scrape like this, and you're only showing a little bit of your tank, if you try and go through the track wheel head on, you're not going to pen it. Whereas if you do it with this tank, if you went right there, you would. And they are roughly in line, would you say? They're roughly in the same kind of position. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what tank I'd rather... I mean, I know I'd rather be hold down in a BZ-72. But considering that this also has the module problem, what's the bet that they just go straight through your lower plate, set you on fire, and then that's it? It's 116mm of pen for the lower plate. And the most annoying thing is that underneath is an overmatch. Does the BZ have an overmatch on the underneath? It does. I mean, that's not actually going to matter, to be fair, because that is a big, big lower plate. It's not like the 60TP in that respect, where the belly is not actually overmatchable, so you get random bounces from when you shoot the lower plate sometimes with the 60TP. So they're both the same with the lower plate. Obviously, the BZ-75, you need 220mm of pen to go through it. And this, you only need 120-ish. Or, if you're a 90 caliber gun or greater, you can go very, very lucky, mind you, but go directly underneath that. So, I don't honestly think that the BZ-72 is as well armored as the BZ-75. Because if you're both side scraping like this, I'd rather just be in the BZ-75, honestly. I'd feel a lot more confident in a BZ-75 side scraping like this in comparison to this tank. And just so that everybody knows where this plate is, we go to the live model. If you're going to be aiming here, you see this little fuel tank box? Shoot that. Shoot that, your pen. Because it's not super easy to find that little bar where you can actually pen it. But if you're going to be shooting, shoot there. And if you're going to be shooting, shoot the light. So there you go. If you do see one of these things, shoot directly at this light. On his right-hand side, and on his left-hand side, shoot this little fuel tank. And there'll be a little bar there that you should be able to pen, even with 230 pen. So, the BZ-72-1. I mean, it looks cool. It definitely looks cool, okay? It is a nice looking tank. I don't feel that I would want to spend, 20,000 gold, though, on this tank when I already have a BZ-75. And that's coming from me, a person that I do want every single tank in the game, and I do have the gold available to me. But, that's a steep price. And I get that it's a tier 10, but it doesn't offer you any extra credits. It doesn't offer you anything else. I mean, yes, it does offer you crew training. You do earn more experience, as you can see here. You will earn some bonds. You'll earn the crew transfer, so you can actually freely move your crew from the BZ-75. And the crew is exactly the same as the BZ-75 crew as it is in this tank, where you have one loader, one driver, one gunner, and one commander. If we go down to the BZ-75, you'll see that we have a loader, gunner, driver, and commander. So as I said at the start, it's your money. It's your gold. And even in the video that I said beforehand, in the when I announced that there was auctions and stuff, it's your gold. Do with it whatever you want. I think that it's kind of dumb to bid, 22k gold for this type of tank when something very, very similar exists. However, there's going to be people in this game that would prefer to play this tank rather than the BZ-75. And that's fine. Maybe they prefer this. It's a bit more low profile. It doesn't have that extra cupola. It's got a smaller turret as well. Maybe this is more a tank for you rather than the BZ-75. However, for me, I'd rather have the higher caliber gun. I'd rather have the better durability for the modules and just the overall a bit more reliable armor. So thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, what you're going to do. And I'll see you all tomorrow for the next one.